One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse with the Poetic Diva, is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between poetry and mental and emotional wellness. This program has been brought to you by Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization and the financial and technical support of the Lyndhurst Foundation, Arts Build, Gold Nook Productions, and our Chattanooga local NPR station, WUTC 88.1. So whether you are a poetry enthusiast or simply someone seeking inspiration and understanding, join us as we unravel the threads of creativity and introspection, one rhyme at a time. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse podcast, where poetry meets mental wellness right here in the heart of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm your host, the Poetic Diva, and I'm thrilled to embark on this poetic healing journey with you. Now, as in every episode, we are being visited by a poet and a mental health professional. Today's episode is for those who battle storms. And who among us has not battled a storm at some point? Many of us are battling them right now. Not just the storms that we see, but the ones that we carry quietly inside. Some storms arrive like thunder, loss, heartbreak, unexpected change. Others move silently. Anxiety, self-doubt, spiritual exhaustion. Today, we are being visited by poet Mark Montgomery Pollard and spiritual counselor Tongeia Farmer. Let's meet our first guest, Mark Montgomery Pollard. Mark Montgomery Pollard was born on August 10th, 1971, the third of four children. At the age of 9, he developed an interest in writing, encouraged by his parents' emphasis on reading. What began as a hobby of writing short stories grew into a true passion for poetry, nurtured by his mother, who recognized and supported his gift. Through his writing, Mark shares the beauty, joy, and emotion he experiences in the world. His work reflects his desire to create pieces that are fun, engaging, uplifting, warm, and thoughtful. He is grateful to God for the path he has been given and hopes his writing will continue to inspire and encourage others. Please join me in welcoming Mark Montgomery Pollard. So let's listen in as Mark shares his poem, The Storm, with us on One Rhyme at a Time.
Awesome. The Storm. Standing at the top of a mountain near the edge of a cliff, I watch the coming storm on the horizon, but there is a different air and mist. The strong winds blow and the trees bend to the might of the force that is. The tumultuous sound of thunder heard shaking the very earth, but no ground I give. The lightning flashes across the expanse of the sky and strikes down before me. The blinding cold rain pours down upon my body. I'm drenched from my head to my feet. Yet, I don't move a muscle or give any thought to run, scream, or yell. I continue to stare into the eye of the storm as I begin to be battered by stones of hell. Although I am bloody, broken, and bruised, feeling as if I'm at the brink of my very own death, I still stand. My heart beats faster and harder, but I am not short of breath. Clouds from the east brings the cold air, and the clouds from the west brings the warm, as the two fronts collide to bring about the deadliest perfect storm. The funnel is created, and it spirals down to touch the land. The largest tornado appears before me, with the destructive force at its command. I'm now its prisoner, and life is the sentence. I will never be free. But as I exhale slowly, it disappears, because I created an outward manifestation of the storm that is inside of me.
Oh, Mark, thank you so very much for being here with us.
I'm glad. I'm honored. I'm honored.
So, this poem is a really, really good one. So, there was a lot that I want to be able to unwrap as we
Okay.
go through. But I do want to find out, first of all, what does writing do for you?
It frees me. It allows me to open up whatever experience just stirs up inside of me. Rather than just continue processing, I have to put it out. Once I put it out, it makes sense of what I've already experienced or what I've lived through. And I'm able to say, okay, now I get it. But at the same token, it allows me, when I write, I want to be able to draw a picture to where the hearer can see what I'm saying. And if they can see what I'm saying, then they can relate to what I'm writing. And that's my whole trigger right there is I want every word to be so pictorial valid, so meaningful that it's something that someone can take with them and share. And that's the whole thing is sharing. Because the more you share, the more you get off your chest, but the more you learn. And you find out there's so many more people just like you going through the same thing.
That is so true. That is so true. So it sounds like the writing process for you is therapeutic,
Yes.
but then at the same time, you're helping other people by the process that you go through when you're sharing with others and connecting with other people.
Yes. Yes. That's something that's sometimes I feel is across the board. I don't like to write angry because there's a lot of angry writers. But when I write, I want to write from a caring perspective of when someone reads it, someone understands me. That's the thought. Someone understands what I'm going through. If I can reach that, I'm satisfied. But it also allows me to open up a door to whereas I can create more friends, more people to share my inner self with. Because a lot of times I close up. I close up, and writing allows me to open up. It's like going to someone's house to eat dinner. You get in there, smell that food. It's like, okay, I'm opening up. Why? Because it's some good food, and that's the way I feel with my writing.
So for this particular poem, what was your inspiration for this poem? So what was the thing that happened that prompted you to actually put pen to paper?
I was really angry that day.
Ah,
I was mad. It's been a while. It's been a while. I think I wrote this poem maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
so you just said you don't write angry.
I don't write
And you were
angry.
very angry when you
And
wrote this poem.
I was at home. I remember I was at home. I was at the table and I'm writing and throwing paper and writing and throwing paper. And I said, hold on a second. And I started writing and I said, now this makes sense. And it helped me to relate to when I was with law enforcement. We had a training exercise and we had to understand what it was like to exist in the mind of someone who was having an episode. Um, and so we had to put on these MP players and we listened to all these different sounds and suggestions and noises. And it was just constant, constant. But before we started listening, we were instructed to take our sidearms and go secure them. They did not want us to have a gun in that room. So we did all that. They checked us as we came back inside. We sat down and we started listening to all of these mental suggestions, these sounds. And as I'm looking around, I'm seeing hands doing like this. People are reaching. And this lasted for about 7 minutes. Then after it was all over, the instructor's like, okay, well, how do you feel? And one guy got up and ran out. He said, this is just a sample. This is just a brief sample of what someone goes through or has to live through every day,
Right.
all night,
All the voices.
all the voices. But it was to allow us to be able to share and have sympathy for someone who goes through that.
Right.
And so when I became a crisis intervention officer, I was able to sit down and have a discussion with someone who was going through an episode. I was able to relate. I was able to bring calm to the matter. So when I wrote this, I also had that in mind, and it kind of combined that, you know what, I'm going through a storm right now.
Right.
And as I'm going through the storm, how do I process the storm? How could I make the storm seem so vivid? Where would I want the storm to be? Where am I positioned when the storm hits?
Yes.
And so I found myself at the top of a mountain. And oftentimes we find ourselves in high places. And when we find ourselves in high places, that's when the storm comes to bring us down.
Yeah.
So how do we treat those storms? And there's where the writing juices begin.
Right. And not only were you standing at the top of the mountain, you were near the edge
Mhm.
of a cliff.
So often people are right at that edge of surrendering, of giving up, and because they don't feel as if anyone cares.
Mm.
No one cares about my problem. No one understands me. And that is a lonely place to be.
It's true.
And even in my storms, it's like I want to lash out. I want to scream. I want to get angry. I want to tear stuff up. But I have to sometimes just take that moment and really take everything in and process it and see, can I take a deep breath and just let it out?
Right.
That way I don't hurt anyone. I don't hurt
Exactly.
myself.
Exactly.
But trust in God that He's going to take care of everything because He hasn't failed me.
There you go.
I don't say yet because He has not failed me.
Exactly.
So through it all, the thick, thin, the storms, God has always been there.
Right. You mentioned earlier about being able to draw a picture through your word choices when you're pulling together your poetry.
Yes.
You drew a beautiful and powerful picture with your word choice with this particular poem. There are two places specifically that stood out to me where you were mentioning that no ground I give and that you do not move. So what is the relevance of the fact that you were unmovable? This storm was not tossing you to and fro.
Bible says, having done all to do to stand therefore. And that's when you know you're being attacked by the enemy. The fiery darts are coming. But if you stand on God's word, that is a sound foundation. So, yeah, let the storms come. I'm not going to move.
You're unmovable.
I'm not going to move. Yeah. Bible says to be unmovable, steadfast, always abounding. So I'm going to stand still and surrender. But I'm not going to surrender to the storm. I'm going to surrender to God because He is the one who's going to bring me through the storm. And I now realize that every storm that comes helps me to grow. And I learn something new as I go through each storm.
Yes.
And
so all storms aren't bad.
No, not all storms are bad. We make them bad because we don't want to change. There are some that are legitimately bad storms and hurricanes, and we may not know how to get through them. But there are some that we may create.
We create our own storms.
We create our own storms. Yeah. And hindsight 2020, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have done that. Right. But we grow. Every day that we are given a new day to live is another opportunity for us to grow.
That's very true. Very true. So there's a lot of imagery that really, really adds to the body of your work. What is your process, and how did you come up with some of the descriptive words as you're explaining the tumultuous sound of thunder and the shaking of the very earth? What was your process?
We all experience rain. It's raining outside today. We know what it feels like for the rain to drop on, drip. We also know we can be laying down and all of a sudden you hear this big boom of thunder and how it shakes. And sometimes you get those long thunder. You're like, oh, wow, is this an earthquake?
Right, right.
So if you can picture that, if you can feel that, you can relate to that, then let me put that in writing to where you can say, yeah, I remember something like that. And the whole thing is, I want you as the listener to be able to close your eyes and see what I'm writing. If you're able to see what I'm writing, then it is a clear picture because a picture paints 1,000 words. So every word that I write is going to make a complete picture. And I want my readers to see, relate. And that's kind of like what drives me to be sure that when I write, that someone else can see the picture, like going to a movie.
Yes.
Back in the olden days, they had radio and there would be a whole show on the radio.
That's true.
But you couldn't see anything. So you had to use your mind.
Yeah.
And so it is a good exercise to continue to use your mind because the mind will begin to continually create, develop, and it inspires others to also write.
That is true. How long have you been writing?
Ooh, I started writing when I was 9 years old.
Oh, my.
Yes. My mother, English professor.
Oh, you had no choice.
I had no choice. My dad, he was like, okay, I want y'all to read books and give me a book report. And I'm like, I'm in elementary school. I was like, okay, so.
You truly had homework.
We had homework. So Treasure Island, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, Cadbury, the fairy tales.
Yes, Canterbury.
Canterbury, that's it,
Yes.
Canterbury Tales. We had to read all those, got familiar with it. But with all that, it's like, okay, well, let me see what I can do. And a little spark started a fire. So I started writing little one-page stories. And then I started getting to listening to rhythm and rhyme. I said, okay, roses are red, violets are blue type of thing. So it started with, little rhymes. And before you know, by the time I got to 8th grade, I'm now 13 years old. I'm writing a full poem. And I would always write. My English teachers loved my writing. It was just something different that they say about my writing. And one of my middle school teachers, she's like, "You're just she was real proper. She said, "You're just an apple just fell off the tree. You're just like your mother." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." But she enjoyed the writing, and it went over to high school, and teachers would take my writing and use it as examples to other classes.
That's amazing.
So I was happy about that, but the same token, I was like, don't do that to me, okay? But it started at an early age, and many of my other family members also write. I think I just keep on going.
Right.
Where there's no stop, I just kept on going.
Right. So at what point did it become therapy for you?
I was with a high school friend of mine, and she and I, we always try to outdo the other. And so it became fun, but it became not so much therapeutic as it was a challenge to see how much more I could develop as a writer. And I wrote a poem not too long ago. I saw his scars. And that was another challenge poem. But the more I wrote, here comes the therapeutic part because it's like I'm relating, I'm feeling. But it's like it doesn't start with the feeling. It's like I want to do better. I want to do better for myself. I want to do better for others. So as I write, it's therapy as far as it's a self-encouraging type of thing. Do better. Do better.
I get that. I get that. There is a line in the poem where you state, "I will never be free."
Mm-hmm.
The entire line says, "I'm now its prisoner, and life is the sentence, and I will never be free."
Mm-hmm.
Expound on that for us.
With mental health, sometimes the person feels so locked in that there is no escape whatsoever.
Oh.
Surrounded by the storm, there's no escape. And because there's no escape, then there does not appear to be any help. Yet it's a feeling of I'm about to live out a life sentence. I'm trapped, surrounded by the storm, have no way out. no one can help me, so I'm stuck here. And again, it comes from a position where someone may not know that there is help. So if you don't know there's help and you're stuck, there's no way out. So it's like, well, I guess it's just going to be the life that I live.
And it's almost like, it sounds like a self-created situation where you've made yourself prisoner.
Right.
But it's of your own making.
Exactly. Yeah. Of your own making. And many people do that. They close themselves in. They close themselves from relationships, family, friends. They close up themselves. If it's not things not going the way they want to, then they put up this wall. And before you know it, they become an introvert, and then the walls close in, and then they cut themselves off from life altogether. It's a storm.
That's true.
Because now it's like there's no reaching out, and you don't want anyone reaching in. And that's self-created.
So isolating yourself is a really dangerous place to be.
It is.
Because that's where the voices can really come in.
They become loud.
They do.
Loud and distinct.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's a dangerous place.
Very. But again, I'm urging, and I don't know who's listening, but God hears you. And God is there for you. If you just surrender to Him, He can blow the storm away. And you can be free again. So you can talk about your storm, but after every storm, there is a rainbow. There is sunshine.
Yeah. There is hope.
There is hope.
I love that. So if someone is wanting to get in touch with you, how can they connect with you?
Okay. First of all, they can connect with me through Rhyme and Chat.
That is wonderful.
That is awesome. And I'm so glad to be part of Rhyme and Chat. It's really done so much for me in the last few years. And I'm elated, and I love sharing. But I can be reached on Instagram under my name, Mark Pollard. Also, my email address is mmpollard71@gmail.com.
All right. Well, Mark, we thank you so very much for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
That's it. It is important to remind you that this podcast is not a substitute for therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified healthcare professional with any questions or concerns that you may have regarding your mental, emotional, and physical health. Now, with that being said, let's find out more about navigating the storms of life. Tongeia S. Farmer is an author, certified spiritual life coach, and mentor based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. A graduate of Second Missionary Baptist Church's School of Evangelism, she went on to complete a course in spiritual counseling at Covington Theological Seminary and earned her life coach certification from the Life Coach Training Institute. She is the founder of Introspection LLC, a counseling group dedicated to guiding others on their journeys of healing and self-discovery. As a spiritual mentor, she weaves together her faith, training, and lived experiences to empower others toward growth and transformation. For more than 2 decades, Tongeia has also shared her voice as a poet. Since 2003, she has been an active member and performer with Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization, where she now serves as the interim board chair. She is the author of the poetry series Visions of Life, which began in 2006 and continues to grow with her newest installment entitled The Next Chapter, released August of 2025. When not serving others, Tongeia finds renewal in studying God's Word, meditating, and writing, practices that nurture both her spirit and her creativity. Above all, she treasures her family. She is the proud mother of 2 adult children, Christopher and Courtney, and the joyful grandmother of Christopher Jr. Please join me in welcoming Tongeia Farmer. So join me in welcoming Tongeia Farmer.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back. We were just here and we had a wonderful conversation about caring for the caregiver. We had the poet Queen's Crown that was here.
Yes, we did.
And today we are talking about storms with Mark Montgomery Pollard. So thank you so very much for being here with us again today.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. So I guess we need to begin at the foundation. People hear the phrase storms of life and things of that nature. What would you define a storm as being?
A storm can be defined in many different ways. It can be defined as internal storms, external storms, storms that we take on from other people, thinking that we can fix them, and we cannot. Because the person that's having the storm has to be able to fix it themselves, however they do that. But in trying to fix our own, first have to acknowledge that it is one. And after acknowledging that it is a storm of some type, then we go from there to, okay, now I have to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah. How do I navigate it?
How do we navigate it?
Yeah.
So it just depends on whatever that may be at that time in your life.
So when we think about life storms, internal versus external, can you give us some examples of what we're thinking about when we talk about external storms versus internal storms?
External storms may be things that would come up with children, parents, work. It can be those things that affect us from the outside. The internal things are depression, anxiety, low self-esteem. Those are the internal type of storms that we deal with.
And you know something, as I'm listening to you list off the external examples of the external storm versus examples of the internal, those internal storms, if not checked, if not treated, can result in creating some external storms.
And so often they do.
Yeah.
So often they do.
Yeah.
Because we tend to put those internal things on other things, or either we pull from other things and create the internal.
Right.
They're dual in process, because a lot of times dealing with low self-esteem or depression or anxiety, you're dealing with maybe how you feel the world is looking at you, and how you work with the things of the world, society, and how you may feel about what it's putting on you as far as race, work, or the lack of, being able to have the type of finances that you feel like you need to have in order to even make it from day to day. So a lot of those external things work, unfortunately or fortunately, with the internal things. It's a matter of how, like we said in the beginning, navigating.
Exactly.
How do we determine working those things out so that we don't hit bottom? Because sometimes it's a little hard to pull up from the bottom. Unless you are relying on, your higher power, whatever that may be, for an individual, relying on therapy, relying on family and friends, somebody to listen to you, somebody to encourage you. A lot of times people won't do therapy because it has often had a taboo attached to it.
Negative stigma, it does.
But therapy is probably one of the best things going, because you're able to talk to someone and they can objectively listen. A lot of times we talk to people that are close to us, and because that person is close to us, we expect them to be on our side. We expect them to, say, "Hey, this, I got you. I'm with you, and yes, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that." But a lot of times we need some objective counseling so that we can actually think it through, make proper decisions. not make decisions off of emotions.
Right. And to not take the feedback that we're getting personally.
True.
You
True.
know, so if I'm really close to somebody
Mhm.
and it's my best friend and I'm sharing something personal with her, something that I'm struggling with,
Mhm.
and she gives me feedback, her feedback back may be very valid. But
it may
I
hurt.
may be like,
Yeah, it may hurt.
girl,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
right, you
Because
coming at
I'm
me,
not,
right?
yeah, I don't expect you to come at me like that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but it's what I need. I
Exactly.
just don't expect it from you.
Exactly.
You know, so
Exactly.
it's very interesting to be able to talk to someone who is not as close.
Yeah.
And after you get so far in life, you grow a little bit, you mature a little bit, even talking with your best friend or your significant other of some type, or whomever that is close to you, you learn to be able to take that criticism or that encouragement or what have you, and work through it. Yeah, you have to grow and mature in some things in life.
That's true.
Overall.
And the internal storms, they're a lot easier to ignore. They're a lot easier to like put on the back burner and not address.
Sometimes we don't know what to address because we haven't paid enough attention to figure it out.
That's true.
Or maybe we just don't recognize it. Some people don't recognize depression or anxiety, depending on where they are in their life.
Right.
So you have to, like we said, first to be able to acknowledge some things.
Right. So if we're having some challenges acknowledging, and I think, it's like we don't know what we don't know. In some cases, is it pride? Is it fear? What are some of the things that are hindrances from people actually getting the help that they really need?
Well, as you mentioned, pride, fear, not knowing. Because, like I said earlier, therapy had a taboo or a negative stigma to it. We, when we don't know or understand how to go about finding resources to deal with, because mama always said, we don't go to therapy.
Right.
So you don't know where to reach out to. You don't know where to find the resources to even try to do something for yourself.
That's true.
It's always good to, like I said before, talk to your higher power, pray, whatever works for you, that individual. It's always good to take a moment and breathe and be still for a minute.
Yeah.
That minute may last an hour. That minute may last a day or two, but you need to be still long enough to really think it through and then set a plan and go with that plan to try to figure out what needs to happen. You got to have a step 1, 2, 3. You've got to be able to try to come out with something.
So storms, once we've acknowledged them, their existence, there needs to be some type of action, whether we're being proactive or reactive. Something needs to take place, because there's some negative things that will happen if we just sit in our storm and do nothing.
Say, for example, going through the passing of a loved one. Are you going to sit there and cry and have pity parties and, woe is me? Or are you going to get all of it out and then say, okay, where do I go from here?
Right.
So you have to be able to find that inner strength to want to push forward, to want to go into doing some other things that will better your life, as opposed to just sitting and just being, woe is me.
Yeah.
Having those pity parties.
And you said something really impactful in that, for example, the loss of a loved one. You gave permission for people to grieve. Like,
yes.
Just don't stay there.
Yes.
That's the thing.
And grief is a time frame different on each individual.
That's true.
But what happens is the grief may stay for years, but as you're growing and dealing with it,
Yes.
you learn that instead of crying, so to speak, all the time, tears of sorrow, you'll find yourself crying tears of joy because you're remembering some great things, some wonderful moments in life. Whether it be the loss of a person, the loss of a job, the loss of whatever, we grieve different things in different ways. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a person, but still, at some point you have to figure out, okay, it's time for me to pick up and move forward. I may still cry about it, but I still need to pick up and move forward while I'm crying,
Right.
while I'm pushing through.
Right.
So,
Right. And being able to find a source for that strength.
yes.
For that strength.
And so many sources, speaking of source, as along with therapy, you have writing,
Yes.
rhyme and chat, of course, poetry,
Right.
being able to share. I remember when I first dealt with rhyme and chat back in the early 2000s, I was at an event and I was like, oh, I got something I want to say, but I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It gave me the opportunity to share.
Yeah.
So a lot of times just being able to write, sing, whatever your outlet is, whether it's walks in the park and you're just checking out the scenery, people watching, whatever your outlet is, being able to do that and do more of it will also help you through the storms of life.
That's true. And the storms of life are going to come. It's
Every
inevitable.
day.
It is
sometimes
inevitable.
50 times a day.
Yes. And there's some people, like my mind goes back to, and I'm sure it still happens now, but back in the day, what happens in our house stays in our house.
Yeah, it probably still happens today too.
Right. And it's viewed as taboo to admit that you're struggling.
It is.
Yeah.
It is viewed as such. Back to where, like I said, therapy, that was often said, we don't do that.
Right.
We don't go to therapy.
Right.
So who am I going to talk to? You just have to keep it to yourself.
To figure that out. Right.
And it's like, how do you do that?
Right.
So I'm glad that society has grown and matured to the point to where we acknowledge now that we can go to therapy and we don't put a negative outlook on it. And because, like I said, a lot of times the therapy that we may have chosen would have been singing or writing or, like I said, people watching in the park, whatever that could have been at that time. Well, now you can add therapy to it. It doesn't have to just be one or two things. It can be a number of things to work with.
So in a lot of cases, when we think of a storm, we're thinking about circumstances, negative things that are just beating on us. But all storms are not bad storms. Like, there are some storms that come and change us in a positive way. Expound a little bit on that, because one of the things that I think about is that when we have a shift or a change in our life, it's usually the result of something uncomfortable that forced us to make a change. When things are going smoothly, that's usually not when we make the change. We don't put the effort into losing weight until the doctor tells us that I'm going to put you on this medication. And then it's like, oh, I better get serious about this thing. So it's like sometimes a storm will come to encourage us or to give us that extra push to make a change in our lives. So what is like the thought process to where when a storm comes to where we don't always view them as negative?
One of the things that was just brought to mind as you were describing that was a thing that Mark said in his interview. When with law enforcement, they went through a training where they had to listen to different things and figure out how to deal with that. It pushed him to become a crisis help person with law enforcement. That was a positive thing, because it enabled him to figure out how to navigate going through and helping someone.
And to help other people.
Help
Right.
other people.
Right.
So a lot of times like you said, different storms come in different ways. And whereas a couple of storms in my life pushed me to where I wanted to be able to help others. It wasn't negative, but it's like, I've been helping and taking care of people for a long time. How can I switch that and still help others?
Right.
So that pushed me
and that's
into.
when you got your certification.
That's right. That's what pushed me into the spiritual counseling part, as far as wanting to learn more about how to do that and how can I help someone else.
So we have a storm in our life.
Mm-hmm.
We have acknowledged the storm. We have done the work that it takes to address the storm. We've made it on the other side of it. Now what?
Okay. That's that particular storm.
Yeah.
So in assessing that particular storm, whatever it may have been, you have the individual has figured it out, weathered it, and is ready to move forward. In preparation for the next storm, you're able to be proactive before it hits. Storms come in different manners, in different ways, whether they be positive or negative. So I can share that there was a situation in my life to where my car was stolen.
Oh.
And when I got the phone call that my car was stolen, I simply said, okay. I'll just make a phone call to the police and okay. But I was able to do that because I recognized the fact that being ugly about it, being negative about it, being anything other than positive about it was not going to fix it, wasn't going to find it, wasn't going to solve it.
That's true.
So there was no need to be ugly about it. There was no need to be upset. Yes, but not frantic. I mean, that's not going to find it.
Yeah. And kind of in that
The situation was already done.
Yeah. And kind of in that saying, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So you have to just realize, okay, how is my reaction going to help the situation?
Yes.
How is my response going to help the situation? And because I was able to pull from that inner strength and just simply say, okay. Person on the other end of the phone was like, did you really just do that? So it's
Did you hear what I said?
So, it's like, yeah, I heard you, but okay.
And there are things to what you're saying, there are things that we can do in the midst of a storm that magnifies the storm.
Yes, because when we start reacting as opposed to responding, when we start just being frantic as opposed to stopping, thinking about it, thinking it through, and seeing, okay, so what do I need to do from here to fix it or to try to assess it, whatever the situation may be, in order to move forward. You sometime in our life we have to grow up.
That's true.
You have to grow up, and in growing up, the maturity will show up and show out, so to speak, as to how we handle things.
Right. And it shows up when times are hard.
Yes.
That's when the maturity and the growth.
It's not going to show up in the times that are easy because there's nothing to challenge you.
Right.
You have to be challenged. And so that's hence the storms. They challenge us to grow us, to mature us, to feed us whatever it is we need to simply figure out how we're going to navigate through this storm.
Right.
Because we will have 50 storms. every day.
And right, some of them are like all happening at the same time.
At the
Wouldn't
same
it be
time.
nice if storms would just like wait their turn and just orderly, like, let me finish this one before you send the next one.
Life
And then
just
let me
doesn't
work
work
on
that
that
way.
one before you send the next one.
Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
But
a lot of times it doesn't.
Life be lifing.
It does.
Life be
It really
lifing.
does.
And they will come at us and pummel us from all directions.
It does. Hence, taking on other people's storms. Why should I put myself in physical harm or depression or stress because something is going on with you, and I feel like it's mine to bear as well, and it's not.
It's not.
A lot of people do that sometimes. They take on, different other people's burdens, so to speak, or whatever their life is lifing about at that time.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with you. You just simply need to mind your own business.
And this is the thing. It doesn't, because you aren't carrying the person's burden along with them, doesn't mean that you don't care.
It does not mean that you don't care. You can simply share that you're there for them, that you care about them, if there's something that you can do to help them. But don't go so far as to where you put your own health at risk, or where you put yourself in a depressed state, or where you're like, this person is going through this because I did something, or I can't fix it, or what. Right. That's not how that works. That's not how that works.
And I will tell you, one of the most challenging things for me when I think about that is from the position of a mother.
Whew.
Right. So when my children are adults. So when my child is going through a storm.
Yes.
They may tell me about their storm,
yes,
but they're not necessarily asking for me to like swoop in.
and help
right.
Yes.
But the mama in me
does it.
wants to swoop in.
Yes, we do.
And I start carrying that burden.
Yes, we do.
And then
I'm guilty.
Right. And then my child is looking at me like,
but I didn't ask your help.
Right.
I didn't ask you for any help. I just wanted you to hear me.
And then I'm upset because they are so ungrateful. That's all I did to help them with their storm.
Yeah.
But they didn't ask.
They didn't ask.
No.
Right.
And I'm actually handicapping and crippling my child.
Yes. We're enabling the situation as opposed to actually helping the situation.
Right. So in a lot of cases, we need to shift our perspective and the way that we view our own storms and the storms of other people.
Yes.
And allow them to navigate their own storms. That's what strengthens them and grows them, like what you're saying.
So, and they figure out things on their own.
They do.
We mothers are very, very, very guilty of that.
We are.
But as we grow and as our children grow, we start learning, hopefully, to just listen, be an ear, be a shoulder, and then say, well, if you need me, let me know.
And I'll do what I can.
I'll do what I can, but I'm not taking on all of it.
Right.
But I'll do what I can if I can.
Right.
But first, listen.
Yeah.
Be a shoulder. And then just sit back and let them grow up. Ooh, that's hard to do.
It is. It is.
That is so hard to do. And my grown folk, yes, it's hard to do.
It's hard to do.
It really is, because we love them, and we just want to, help them and carry them and shoulder them, and all of those things.
And in a lot of cases, helping them and carrying them and shouldering them is not truly showing the love that sometimes we got to give tough love. It's for our children, but also there may be friends and for other people who tend to like come to us to share their burdens and things of that nature, because some people tend to enable other people. They have a more nurturing spirit. So we have to like watch that, because we can be our own worst enemy. I
had a friend who was not feeling well. And I said, is there anything that I can do for you? Is there anything that you need? And so one thing that friend requested was, can you come and take care of something? And I said, no, I can't do that.
You had
But
to draw the line.
I
You
had,
had to draw the
but
line.
you know, I let them know anything else I might be able to do, but I'm not gonna be able to do that one. So, you know, it's just a matter of learning your boundaries
Yeah,
and then being able to deal with those boundaries.
exactly.
And the person that you're trying to be there for, let them understand their boundaries.
Yeah.
And let them know it's all in love. You just, you know, I'm here for you, but now it's some things you're going to have to figure out for yourself.
Right. And realizing that storms they're a part of life.
They are. They are.
Like, it's not God punishing us. It's not necessarily something bad that we've done or anything like that. Storms are a part
Of life. They're part of our growth. They're part of our maturity. They're part of our learning so that we can figure out how to navigate life.
Definitely.
Yes.
I thank you so very much for being here with us
Well,
and
thank you for
having
having
this
me.
discussion with us. So if people are trying to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Of course, there's Facebook and it's Tongeia Farmer. Instagram is the same, Tongeia Farmer.
Could you spell Tongeia for us?
Tongeia is Tongeia. Tongeia. As it is written, that's how it sounds, even though it gets messed up quite a bit. So Facebook, Instagram, my email is Tongeia46@gmail.com.
Just like with our poet, Mark.
Yes.
They can also get in touch with you
through Rhyme and Chat.
So we thank you so very much for
Most
being
definitely.
here.
Thank you.
Remember, storms don't always mean that you're lost. Sometimes they are proof that you are moving, evolving, and learning how to listen to yourself in deeper ways. We would like to hear from you. How do you navigate storms when they come your way? What internal storms are you facing, and how are you responding to them? How have you grown and evolved through the storms of life? African-American writer and activist James Baldwin said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." We want to hear about your experience in an original poem that you've written in response to this podcast. Submit your poem to rncpoetry@gmail.com for the chance to have your poem read on an upcoming episode. Until next time, this is the Poetic Diva. May your days be filled with inspiration, healing, and poetry, one rhyme at a time. for joining in the conversation. One Rhyme at a Time, Unpacking the Meaning and the Muse with the Poetic Diva is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between artistic expression and mental wellness. And we would like to hear from you. Tell us in an original poem that you've written in response to this podcast, and submit your poem to rncpoetry@gmail.com for the chance to have your poem read on an upcoming episode. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, share, and leave comments for us on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us as we continue to bring you meaningful content, one rhyme at a time.